Hi folks, and welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I'm speaking to you from outside Ibrox just after Rangers have beaten Livingston by 4-0 in the quarter-finals of the 2023-2024 Viaplay Scottish League Cup. Rangers 4, Livingston 0, second time in the month of September, almost ended that Rangers have actually managed to get 2 goals up on Sunday. I think with that 5 minutes up in Perth at the end of that game. It's only the second time this season I think that we've taken a 3-goal lead against anybody, and that was Livingston when we beat them 4-0 in the league at Ibrox back in August, just as we have done tonight. So I think Michael Beale's entitled to his little boast about 4 consecutive clean sheets tonight. We're not going to have a go at him or Neil Banfield if they start bringing out the clean sheet stats, because that is 4 in a row. I mean, when you win 4-0, you really are entitled to that. I'm talking about Forest Precision Engineering at the start of our pod, as always, our esteemed sponsors, and I think we have to talk about Forest Precision in a different respect. Forest Precision goal scoring, Jim Forrest, lovely minute silence for the great man tonight. Really sad news today. The Rangers family all over the world hearing that the legendary Rangers striker of the 1960s passed away at the age of 79, and for a man that scored 4 goals in the final of this competition, the 63-64 League Cup, it was really nice to see Rangers go out and score 4 goals tonight, just when we're needing it. Far from a completely satisfactory performance. It was very much like the league game against Livingston, who we've got to remember are really struggling this season. They're third bottom in the league. Very much like that league game in which we go 1-0 up in good time, and there's a long delay between the first and the second goal, and things start to get a bit antsy in the stands. Although tonight, I've got to admit, it was more a case of everybody starting to fall asleep. But then, when we get the second goal, the third and the fourth follow hard upon it. So it was a really comfortable display in the end up, really comfortable victory. And we're going to talk about Jim Forrest, and we could talk about that man for ages. He left Rangers like 2 years before I was born, but you grow up on the legends, you're in the supporters buses and what have you, and you're getting told the tale. And he's a lesson to us all, Jim Forrest, in the way he was mistreated by the club. An unbelievable goal scorer. You need to look at his stats, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he scored 2 goals in the following season's League Cup final against Celtic. I think he'd one season he scored like 57 goals or something like that across all competitions. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yet him and George McLean, his strike partner, who was every bit as legendary with the stats and the goal scoring, were both just basically drummed at the club, put in the transfer list straight away because of one game, one bad performance when they didn't score. Neither of them scored. No one else in the park scored either against Berwick Rangers in that infamous Scottish Cup game in January 1967, in the days where we needed to have a scapegoat. We needed to, the days where the directors weren't hanging about and waiting for the fans to demand somebody's head on a plate. They just went out and did it for them. And we end up 4 months later, we're playing in a European final in Nuremberg in Bavaria against Bayern Munich. We only lose it by 1-0 after extra time. But we had a centre half, poor old Roger Hind, playing up front as a striker, and the legend at Ibrox is, had we just kept any kind of striker playing in that game, and we'd get rid of 2 of the best in our history, just to make a point about how angry we were about that defeat to Berwick. We would have won that, and we would have had a kind of share in Celtic's glory that same month where they won the European Cup, and although they still have won the superior trophy, it would have felt more like a joint effort. They would have been completely raging. They don't like to be part of anything. They don't like to be half of anything, Celtic, especially with us, and it would have annoyed them for all eternity had it been people constantly referring to the old firm winning both European trophies and not always specifying which one they won. But that's something and I feel as if Rangers didn't really recover properly from the Berwick debacle and our over-the-top reaction to it until 1987, a game I was at 20 years later, when we lost 1-0 to Hamilton Accies at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup in Graham Souness's first season as manager. And I remember guys saying, we get rid of Forrest and McLean for what happened at Berwick. We should get rid of Fleck and McCoys for what's happened today, but we didn't. And we went on to eventually win 9 in a row. Had we kept Forrest and McLean, we might well have ended up, breaking through in Jock Stein's side and taking a few of those titles from them, particularly the ones won in the 60s and Celtic would never have had 9 in a row. And I'm talking about all this because I think it's a lesson we need to learn, myself included, right now, about rushing to judgment, and about getting rid of everybody, about having a sack everybody attitude. There's no doubt that things have been pretty dire for basically most of the start of this season. Things just haven't been good enough. by Rangers standards, by the expectations we have for the team. But I think you see tonight an argument anyway for Michael Beale. The players have gone out there, and every bit of, as much as Sunday against Motherwell saw them kind of basking negligently in the glow of the quality 1-0 win over Real Betis last Thursday night, I think tonight you saw them definitely trying to react. Even though it wasn't always coming off and it wasn't working all the time, you saw them definitely trying to react positively to the negative feedback they were getting from that little that little question and answer session we have at full time in every game at Ibrox on Sunday there. The 1-0 win against Motherwell, the players getting booed off the park. 4 changes to the starting lineup tonight. Rabbi Matondo was obviously out. We also had, who else was lost tonight? Borna Barisic was dropped, and in came Ridvan Yilmaz. Ryan Jack started instead of, I think that'd be Scott Wright probably, and you had Kamar Roof playing instead of Cyril Dessers. Now that was, apart from Borna Barisic, whoever I wanted to start tonight, that was the lineup I was looking for before the game. Actually mentioned in my wee kind of pre-match pod, but not trying to predict the lineup, because who can predict what Michael Beale's going to do when it comes to putting personnel on the pitch. But it was me predicting what I wanted to see on the park, and then the minute Ridvan Yilmaz get picked instead of Borna, the only difference to my preferred starting 11, I thought, oh, that's it, Yilmaz is going to go and score a hat-trick tonight. Didn't quite do that, but he certainly made sure, he certainly turned the game from another slog into a canter with a magnificent goal to put us 2-0 up deep in the second half. But I was looking for the team to go out maybe the kind of 4-diamond-2 formation with Roof kind of playing maybe in front of us, and with having Lammers behind them. It didn't quite work out like that. I think it was a 4-3-3 with John Lundstrom certainly sitting deepest of all in midfield, or sitting deep more often than anybody else. Cifuentes on the right hand side, Ryan Jack over to the left. You had their 2 fullbacks, Tav and Yilmaz, pitching their tents really high, deep into the Livingston half of the field. And Kamar Roof seemed to be playing, he was playing through the middle, but he seemed more kind of withdrawn role, perhaps a false 9, but with nobody in front of him. It looked like he was kind of reprising the role he was given by Michael Beale in Perth a couple of weeks ago, but except with no Danilo in front of him this time. And Lammers and Seema, you'd Seema on the left hand side this time, the role he had against PSV Eindhoven at Ibrox, and you had Lammers on the right hand side up front, pretty much like the role he had at McDiarmid Park, Perth, a couple of weeks ago. So I wasn't sure about the way it was all set out, but it was kind of hard to pin down the exact formation, because there was a lot of fluidity, there was a lot of mobility, a lot of dynamism, basically everything I like to see from any member of my sales team. Sorry, I don't know why I'm coming out with all these buzzwords, but they were moving about all over the place, and it was everything that we were lacking on Sunday. They seemed to be making a real effort to show that wasn't going to happen again. They were really injecting a lot of pace into the game, and I think we had a wee chance maybe 5 minutes into the game as a shot. I think it might have been Yilmaz that had the shot. He's kind of cuts across, Yilmaz, doesn't he? He powers up the park and he cuts across more than putting the big crosses in the way Borna does. Borna's more kind of straight up and down the wing, but I think he might have ended up having a shot in the box. It was up the other end of the park from me, and the goalkeeper has a cracking save from point blank range. And then it's about, I think about 5 minutes after that, maybe the 11th minute of the game, Seema is going down the left-hand side. It's a kind of shoulder charge, let's put it that way, with an opposition player, with a Livingston player, and we're all just expecting the ref to blow for the free kick. And when he doesn't, Seema looks temporarily as stunned as the rest of us, but he has the foresight just to carry on. He has the sharpness. The one thing we're really looking for from Rangers these days, particularly after Sunday's performance, is the sharpness just to carry on, and he sweeps it across the goalkeeper into the far side of the net. 1-0 Rangers, and it's looking great. And you're thinking, yeah, this is it. Maybe the plan's coming together, and for the next 50 minutes, slowly as it got towards kind of the half-hour mark, I was starting to realise that I was feeling a bit sleepy. I was getting a bit soporific. We were moving the ball about plenty, but of all the people, one man's words started to go through my brains. Now if you're going to sit and think about the words of other men, you should maybe have, I don't know, a kind of pithy anecdotes, or witty aphorisms or something like that. You get Shakespeare, you get Oscar Wilde, Groucho Marx, and all I could think about was the lines of one Neil Banfield from yesterday when he was talking about how we've got it, we've got the attacking thing. I've not got the exact quote, obviously I can't remember it verbatim, I'll go home and check it, but it was basically along the lines of, we're really good at dominating an attack, except for that bit where you score the goals. And that's all I was thinking about today. For that kind of 50 odd minutes between the first and second goal, it was like, are we going to get this second goal? Yet again, here we are, unable to get the second goal. And half time I was slightly worried, and then in the second half, out comes Cyril Dessers instead of Kemar Roofe. So you'll know better than me by now what's happened there. I don't know if it's an injury to Kemar. Again, I hope to hell not. I hope it's just a wee change from Michael Beale, because in fairness, I don't think Kemar Roofe, me having bummed him up so much after his press conference yesterday and just bumming him up this season in general because he's such a great player, he wasn't really getting as involved as we wanted him to in the first half, and perhaps that was because he's got this kind of withdrawn role. He wasn't really been playing as a kind of striker, all-out striker I wanted him to be, despite him going through the middle. But he doesn't appear for the second half, and I don't know, the first 10, even 20 minutes of that second half, it was starting to look kind of bad. And I think Sima had a kind of wee go down the left-hand side, had a shot at the near post that was saved by the goalkeeper. And then about the hour mark, I think it was, Livingston got themselves a corner. And again, it's up the other end of the park from me. And I think Jackie Butler made a bit of a show of covering it with a kind of low dive to his left, but it did just kind of flash past the post. And you're thinking, here we go. I've spent the whole month since this draw was made thinking we're going to be 1-0 up against Livingston, and because Livingston have never won at Ibrox, the fatalistic Alec is thinking they're going to equalise later on, it's going to go to penalties and they're going to beat us, and still we'll be able to claim, though nobody will want to, that Livingston have never beaten us over 90 minutes at Ibrox. But it wasn't to be, because about 2 or 3 minutes after that, Ridvan Yilmaz, instead of all this interpassing and all this slick movement, and definitely were controlling the game. I mean, Livingston just couldn't get the ball off us at all. But instead of all this kind of fancy Dan nonsense, as an old dal like myself might call it, Ridvan Yilmaz just takes the ball at the halfway line, just powers right up the middle of the park and smacks into the bottom corner of the net with his left foot from the edge of the box. That's it, 2-0. Just made it look unbelievably simple. And I must admit, I had to be kind of hoisted out of my seat because I'd pretty much get set to go for a kip in there. I really kind of a weird atmosphere at Ibrox tonight. Storm Agnes obviously scaring a few people from coming out. Quite right, the weather's quite miserable. Hard times financially for a lot of people. Christmas is suddenly on the horizon. The game itself, not on the season ticket. You've got to be on the continual credit card scheme. I'd say you're lucky if there's 35,000 here tonight. Big spaces, and after, it's that kind of in between thing where we didn't lose on Sunday there at Motherwell, but it certainly felt like it. A lot of doubt around the club, around Michael Beale's management, so that was really borne out of the atmosphere tonight. So we really needed that second goal just before things started to get properly antsy again. And after that, everybody seemed to relax. And Sima, of course, straight away, just like the way it's been going for Rangers this season, Yilmaz has to come off with an injury. It seemed like 2 seconds later, someone's, you've scored a goal, you've put us 2-0 up, and I have to do something about this. This is too much good news. So Yilmaz goes off with an injury again, hopefully not serious. He seemed to be celebrating quite the thing still when he came off the park. He was really milking it, enjoying his moment, and quite rightly so. He's not had much of a Rangers career since he arrived here from Besiktas. And on came Borna, and he then puts a worldie of a ball, obviously spurred into action. Number 31, he spurred into action by the absolutely cracking goal scored by his understudy. He flashes a brilliant ball up the length of the wing. None of this, he's not doing the young guy thing of he's moving the ball at his feet. He's not carrying the ball right the way up from the halfway line up to the edge of the Livingston box. He's just like an old dog. He's boxing clever, and he sends a pass up the left wing, up the left channel, curls round brilliantly onto Sima's feet, and he's going to curl it back for Dessers, who was having a kind of very Cyril Dessers second half to himself, and the defender comes in to try and cut out the cross, and he puts it into the net. But the goal is credited, and on the PA system at Ibrox anyway, the goal is credited to Sima, a second goal for him. And at the end of the game, I think in the last minute or so, some lovely play. James Tavernier puts the ball across. I don't know, who's it dummy? Is it John Lundstrom? I don't know. Somebody dummy. I don't know if Lundstrom's still in the park at that point, and Ryan Jack has a tidy wee shot into the bottom corner. 4-0, and nobody writing home about this performance, but absolutely no right for anybody to complain about it either. A really solid win. You'll know by now, when you're listening to this, who we've got in the semi-final. But we're off to Hampden again, where all of our League Cup, most of our League Cup hopes have crashed and burned over the last few seasons. St Mirren did put us out in Paisley that time during the COVID lockdown season, but wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? The pressure is still on. We've got no excuse not to win this cup, especially with Celtic, because Celtic are out of it. It is extra pressure, despite what Neil Banfield said yesterday. It's definitely extra pressure on us to win it, and we shouldn't think in it in those terms. We just think, come on, we want it. We just want it more than any pressure we might be feeling to win it. It's been a crazy few days, folks. A crazy couple of weeks for Rangers. They haven't come back as convincingly as we'd like them to after that international break, but if things were as bad as we thought they were when they went into that international break and in the back of that defeat to Celtic and the hammering in Eindhoven, then part of you thinks it's only natural that they'll take their time, they'll claw their way back into some form tentatively. All these new players still gelling, blah blah blah, we've heard it all before, but it doesn't mean it's not true. And so you've got 4 clean sheets on the bounce, and we've got Aberdeen coming on Saturday. They've had a League Cup game tonight. I don't even know how they got on. They were playing in Dingwall tonight, so they've had a kind of workout tonight as well. We get them on Saturday, and hopefully they're unable to cope with a season that's going to involve European football for them, whereas we're the old dogs. We're well versed in playing midweek, and if we could just round it off with another clean sheet and another victory on Saturday and come out of September in form opposite to how we arrived in it, and I think everything's going to be okay. But I think all our thoughts tonight are with Jim Forrest's family, and I think Rangers paid them a lovely tribute, but the best tribute of all would be for this team to start winning silverware at the rate the great Jim Forrest did. Thanks very much, folks. See you soon.